About 2 years ago, I made the statement that I had covered textbooks used by social workers here in the U.S., as well as Europe, that state the family is a disease belonging to ancient times. We must eradicate it for the state to flourish. We've got to break up the family. And in England now, people that have children at birth, they have to put a camera in the home, watching them, guilty until proven innocent, secret courts. Similar things are being set up here, but a Mail story was also in the Telegraph. Mother not clever enough to raise child has baby snatched by social workers after running away to Ireland to give birth. And they just said because she had a learning disability, they took the child. But thank God, liberal Democrat member of Parliament John Hemming has been championing her and others. He said there is no evidence that Mark and Carrie cannot be good parents. And I just hope that the Irish authorities can resolve this as quickly as possible. There has been a good break in the case, but this is still continuing. So get into the secret courts, the architecture, sir, how this works, and some of the other cases you're facing in England, because I see similar stuff in Australia, U.S., and Canada.
Yeah, the problem we have particularly is to do with the accountability or the quality control on the judgment systems used by local authorities, because here it's the Children's Services Authority, which is either a county council or a metropolitan unitary authority or district council, which makes these proposals. They operate through the family court, so the family court's supposed to look at it. Now, the family court is a court where if you talk about what's happened in the court, you can go to jail, and they do send people to jail for this. Now, I am particularly concerned, for instance, that you're only allowed to have one expert. It's a criminal offence to get a second opinion. So you can only have the expert agreed by the court. You can't get somebody else to look at the papers. And we have situations, for instance, I have one case in Birmingham where an expert was judging whether a mother had the mental capacity to instruct a solicitor. That is, if you don't have the mental capacity to instruct a solicitor, the official solicitor comes in, and what the official solicitor normally does is concede the case against you. It's like, if you're in a criminal court, you're not allowed to plead not guilty. You're actually, somebody comes in and says you're too stupid to say you're not guilty.
Well, this sounds Kafka-esque. I mean, this does sound 1984, where it's completely rigged, and our family courts are very, very similar.
It is completely rigged. That's the whole point. And if you take the sum total of all applications for care orders by local authorities, and the figures from 2007, if you take the sum total, the application for a care order was only rejected in 0.27% of cases. Now, that's a slight misrepresentation, because sometimes they withdrew the application for a care order.
Say that number again. I mean, so out of 100,
0.27%.
So out of 100 cases,
the parents they won about a quarter of them.
So 75% of the time,
not 25 out of 100, but like out of 1,000, winning 27.
Oh my God! So it's less than 1%.
No, actually 2.7.
2.7. Okay.
Yeah, no, it's dreadfully bad. It's less than 1.7. Yeah, it's 0.27%.
So 90 plus
about 3 out of 1,000.
3 out of 1,000. So if the government wants your children in England, you have 1 out of 1,000 chance of winning. I mean, just total kangaroo court.
It is, and a lot of it's to do with the way they control the expert evidence. And if I take the example of the losing your child through an IQ test, there was a lady who didn't speak English. She came from Asia, and they gave her an IQ test through an interpreter. Now, that inherently makes an IQ test invalid. You can't do an IQ test through an interpreter. It makes the outcome invalid, yet they did that.
My God, it's worse than I even thought.
I think it's worse here because we had the adoption. I know you had adoption targets, but here we got the formula wrong as well.
Well, that's right. Bill Clinton got the law passed where a certain number of children have to be seized every year for the CPS to get their money.
That's right, yeah. We have the same thing here. I got rid of those a few years ago, and we caused a fuss about them, but the system's still going wrong. And what's interesting is you find that the way that the system babies taken into care causes so much psychological damage that a lot of them attack their adoptive parents at around about age 10 because they have a thing called...
And then they get to drug them and say they're special needs, and then more money...
The Ritalin thing comes in as well, but very often they just end up going back into care. But it's actually... There was some work done, some very good work done by a researcher called Professor Michael Rutter. He looked at the Romanian orphanages, and what he found, and the long-term effect of being in a Romanian orphanage for a baby, and what he found, which was very interesting, is it didn't really have a long-term effect up to the first 6 months of life. And then the next 12 months, between 6 months and 18 months, was very, very important. Now, what we do in England, we take a lot of children, a lot of babies away, thousands, in the first 6 months, and then they're kept in care for about a year and a half.
And they warehouse them, and it screws them up.
And it screws them up, yeah. And then you have another piece of research in a book called Enhancing Adoptive Parenting, written last year by Alan Rushton and Elizabeth Monk, points out that there's what they say I can read it out if you want, is the data looking at bad behaviour. These data suggest that experience associated with coming into care, and while in the care system, may be more influential than experiences before coming into care in determining children's behaviour in the first few months of an adoptive placement, the first few months being 21 months. Now, the point about that is what they're saying is that these children who are in adoptive placements, they're placed with adoptive families, it all goes very wrong, but the evidence they have is that it's by taking the children into care and by their treatment in care that their behavior gets... Yeah,
they're screwed up, not even so much by the adoptive parents, but being warehoused for...
Oh, not the adoptive parents. No, it's not, because by that time it's too late.
No, exactly. It's grabbing the baby when it's 6 months old or a year old, warehousing it for a year, living in basically a cage with a bunch of other kids, punching them in the face.
Not a cage, no, but the point about it is it's not the same as being with your parents, however bad they may be at times. But I am not somebody who believes the state should not intervene, by the way.
But let me just expand on this.
My concern is it intervenes inappropriately all the time, and the accountability is not there. I
understand. So let me throw this out at you then, because I'm listening to what you're saying, and I've looked at the numbers. I've seen the numbers that the government in England, a child is 7 times more likely to be abused or hurt in government custody. Here, it's 5 times more likely. Now, you can disagree with that number if you like, but I've seen that in your papers. I know here, it's been the cover of Time magazine, the shame of foster care. The point is that let's face the facts. You get more lazy people, pedophiles, scum, control freaks that want access to kids that get into this business. Now, I'm not saying even a large percentage are, but statistically, there are a lot more predators that get into state care because they want access to children. And we know, sir, that it is screwing children up to be in this system. And obviously you want to take somebody's child if they're beating them with a chain or not feeding them or they're in a crack house. But I don't see that. I see them hunting down Christians' children. I see them taking people's children for no reason.
Well, they take them as an odd reason. They have a tendency to take children because the mother's a victim of domestic violence. I find that odd because you would the evidence of that. One of the cases, Angela Wildman's case, a very interesting case. I spoke to her today actually, and she's over in Ireland at the moment. Just to give you a bit of her history, she was the victim. It's been in the papers, by the way. She was a victim of domestic violence, and she phoned. There could be a lot worse. I'm not going to belittle it, but she phoned the police, got injunctions against her ex, and the authorities decided to use this to take her then 5-year-old son into care.
That's right. Women aren't told this. They're told put an injunction in, even if he's yelling at you. And then they don't know they're coming to snatch your kid. Yeah,
well, they actually use the injunction as the reason that the children were at risk, which is all a bit strange. But this is why why mothers are feeling that not to report domestic violence, because they're worried that their children will be taken if they report domestic. We've got a lot of that in England. But anyway, I'll give you more of Angela's story because it's quite an interesting one.
Okay, go ahead.
So she got pregnant and she knew she faced the removal of the baby at birth and probable adoption of the baby. So she took her son out of foster care and did a runner to Spain. And she lived and worked in Spain for about a year, and they found her in Spain. And they started proceedings to take her son off her and bring him back to England, right? And so she basically got out of Spain and went to Sweden. To be honest, she found it a bit cold there. And then she went to Ireland.